everyone, Keren here with some ideas for Tonic Craft Kit number 22. This is a gorgeous kit that has slightly larger dies than maybe some of the other kits have. You can see some of them here. They are very, very ornate with a couple of the plainer dies as well for the outlines. You have florals, you've got beautiful stamps, and you've also got the dies that actually match. So you've got dies that correspond to the flower shapes and this sentiment here. You've got lots of other things. Again, there are plenty of unboxing videos you can have a look on YouTube or on the Tonic page or on the Craft Kit site. Here's some of the beautiful colours that gives you an idea of the sort of vibe that the Craft Kit has. I'm going to be doing a technique-based card which just looks at a really simple technique that lots of you may have tried, some of you may have not, just called partial die cutting. So I'm going to show you how to make this card, which is a lot more simple than it looks, and it's using our partial die cutting technique. And because you've partially die cut it, you can actually fold it completely flat to send in the post. So I'm going to show you now exactly how to do it. So to start off with, you're going to need an A5 piece of cardstock. You can possibly see here, I've just put some little score lines halfway up along this length. And the reason I've done that is because that's going to provide the fold line. Do a better job of me than me. If you can see here, I've actually taken the score beyond that. We will hide some of that, so it's not a great problem, but it's always worth having a good measure before you sort of go a bit gung-ho with your scoring. So we've got that, and what is really, really important, I know I don't always do it, but for this technique, you really do need to secure your die. So I've secured it with a little bit of tape. Then this is the important bit. You're going to need to get your cutting mats rather. So I've got my cutting mats here. Now the whole point of this is that we only want half of the die cut, which is why it's called partial die cutting. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop our die in, and because I've put it centrally, you don't have to worry about cutting the right bit. Whichever bit you cut is going to be the bit that's going to be the stand-up part. So what I'm going to do is just gently take these lines to the very edge of my cutting mat. So I know now that this bit here, which is going to be within the cutting mats, is the only bit that's actually going to be cut out. So the other thing to do, which is really important so that you don't end up getting really frustrated, is actually stick the cardstock in place onto your cutting mat. It just stops it moving and you getting really frustrated because you have got part of the die sticking out of the end, so it is more easy to move. So we're going to pop our top white plate on the top and we're going to die cut it. Okay, so here we've got our piece of cardstock. Now we just carefully remove the tape. And you can see we've now got these little bits here that we can fold. Okay, and we've now got our card. Now I guess you could do it this way. There's all sorts of things that you could do with it, but what we're going to do is we're going to move on and decorate it using some of the elements from the dies from the kit. So let me get my one that I have already prepared. Now what I did was, once I got to this point, I took my smaller oval die. Just let me find this one here. So I took my smaller oval die and I positioned it just like this. Again, pop it through, make sure you secure it, and you're going to end up with this, okay? It's looking a bit like a dressing table mirror, which would be a cool idea for a card, particularly if you put some mirror card in there. So we've got that bit there. Now, the next part was to actually add, you can just about see here, my acetate. So I love the acetate from Craft Perfect, which is the Tonic Studios acetate. Really super thick, gorgeous quality. You do need to remove the film. There is a slight film on it. So just do that before you use it. So I trimmed that out, and then what I did was I actually cut another oval frame just to hide the little bits that were showing. So I've got my basic element now. What you may find is, because you've got quite a sturdy top like this and only one layer of cardstock, even though this cardstock is nearly 300 GSM, what you might find best to do is to cut another section out. So just put your oval in a plain piece of cardstock, trim to fit, and that will just give you a little bit of more added structure. So there we've got our basic part there. So we've got the acetate, and the reason that I was using the acetate is because I want to add elements into the middle to give them an idea as if they are floating. So the next part, I needed to cut out the bits to actually add onto it. Now, here is a little part, the floral die. Now this is this larger one here. So I just cut this out onto some white cardstock, and I coloured it in using some elements that actually weren't from the kit. Lots of you will have this, otherwise, you know, just use whatever you've got at home. I used my Nouveau alcohol pens, and these are 416, 412 and 410. And that is lime, Parisian lime, vine leaf and pea pod. So I use those. Looks like I've got black on me. So I use those to create colour onto the leaves. So you can see here, I've just partially coloured them using the 3 different colours of the alcohol ink. And the reason that I wanted to just use partial is because it gives a lighter feel. And again, I actually trimmed it down. So this is the whole piece, and I just trimmed a little section out because I wanted it to look a little bit more contemporary. So when I place it on there, which it will match the shape perfectly, we've got a little bit of movement being created in our design. So that's the first element. Now the next thing I did was to stamp and die cut the flowers. Now the flowers, you've got the outline here in the dies, and you've got the stamps here. So I just stamped them. Let me just get the background so you can see them properly. There you are. So I stamped 3 of the larger ones, 2 of the smaller ones, and also the sentiment. And they all have matching outline dies, so I die cut all of those, and you end up being left with little ones like this. Now, all I did then was I used the alcohol pens that come in the kit. Now, those of you that haven't used alcohol pens before, have a little practice with them. Alcohol tends to blend better. So if you're used to using felt tips, these are game changers, because what you'll find is they create much less of an obvious line between the change in colours. Now, these, let's see if I can get them. There you are. These are the 3 colours that come together, and they've Tonic have them in 3s because these are the colours that go together really, really well. So all I did was just colour. You might find you need a couple of layers down. Sometimes it's easier to start with a dark colour. I'm just going to show you really, really quickly how I've done that. What you don't want to do is, for optimal blending, you don't want to leave it to dry and then go on to another colour. So you're best to work quickly, because if the ink is still slightly wet, it's going to blend much better. So I'm putting a darker colour on there, and then the next colour. And what will happen is that medium colour is blending into the dark colour. So just take that out a little bit like that. And then what I can do is I can take the lighter colour and just go into the edges, just where that medium colour has met the lighter colour, and that will just help blend it all in. And that was a very, very quick show of how you would do that. But if you have a look there, you can see it's a really, really beautiful effect. So I created some of those. So I ended up with my little flowers here. Now you could add all sorts of things into the center of your flowers. I actually used one of the products that I showed one last time, which was, whoops, the crystal gems. Kind of helps if you put the top back on. Now these come in 3 sizes, and the beauty of these is whatever color you've got going on underneath, it's going to come through because these are translucent, and they've got a real sheen to them. They're absolutely gorgeous. So I've just put a couple of them on. I've got one more to go. Tip that one out. These are best put on with something like your Nouveau Deluxe adhesive. So just put a little tiny bit, and obviously you're going to start off with a bit of white underneath, but as the glue dries you'll find that it goes completely clear and will show up the gorgeous purple tones underneath. So pop that on like that, and then you're going to leave those to dry. Now a little tip with stamping. Some of you are not as keen on stamping. If you're really struggling with stamping, by all means get yourself the stamping platform by Tonic and Tim Holtz. But just a little tip, and I do this, I've been stamping for years, but sometimes your stamping doesn't go quite right. You might have the odd little bit that hasn't come out perfectly. Don't feel that you need to throw it out and start again. All I do is I get a little fine liner. This is a pilot drawing pen, but it's got a very, very fine nib. See if you can see that there. It's going to be quite hard for you to see because it's very, very fine. There you go. So what I would do is, if I've got little bits that haven't quite stamped perfectly, which tends to be user error rather than the actual stamp, then all I would do is just take my pen and just add a little bit of black, so nobody need ever know that your stamping was a little bit dodgy. So that's my sentiment and my flowers. Now the only other thing that I need to add to it is a little bit of colour. So I die cut, let me just move these out of the way. So I die cut another oval out of the lovely purple that comes in the kit. And I also die cut an inner oval from some of the glitter card. Look at that, isn't it amazing? Look how sparkly it is. So I cut 2 of those out. Now, a little tip, a little trick to use if you just want a very fine little element to go. So I don't want to put too much glitter cardstock onto my card because I don't want it to take over. So I just wanted a little slither, but I didn't want to cut it out and it look a bit dodgy. So using your die, once you've actually cut out your oval, then all you need to do is take your oval again and actually position it back onto the cardstock like this. So you can see you've got a little slither there. Put some tape on, put it back through your die cutting machine, and then you're going to end up with something like this. And all that's going to do, it's going to give a shadow. Obviously we don't have a smaller size down, but if you haven't got a smaller oval and you want to add an element as if you were adding a mat, this is the trick that you need. So let's put it all together. On the back of here, I have just drawn a couple of lines. They're probably not going to be very easy to see, but I wanted to have some thin pieces that I could add just to add a little bit of colour. I love the amount of white that is in the cards, so that's why I didn't want to add big chunks of colour. So I'm just going to add 2 little, see the lines here? There you are. 2 little pieces here. And I wanted to make sure that I wasn't actually having to trim the slight curve. So I'll put those away to use for another time. So let's sort this card out and compile it all together. Let's get some glue. Let's just add a little bit of adhesive, and I just wanted to have some colour going just a little band across. So add some more glue onto this side and match that up. Whoops, it would help if I got the right one on the right side. There we go. And if, as you did with the first one, if your cutting mat ends up making a slight indentation into your cardstock, it didn't do with the first one that I did, but can you see here? You've got that. It means that you can actually hide that. So I'm all about covering up your mistakes. So there's my little bit of purple. So now we're going to put on the leaf part. Let me just try and be super quick with this. Just add a little bit of glue all around. Try not to drop it and glue it to your card. Right, so just do this quickly. You could add this up on foam pads if you wanted to, and I'm going to pop this on here. Now, because I wasn't concentrating on what I was doing, I've actually put glue behind the leaves, which I didn't actually want. So I'll just allow that to dry. You won't make that same mistake. Okay, so there we are, starting to bring it all together. We're going to add some glue onto this little section here and ease that in. The way that we've created this with the acetate would make a really perfect shaker card. So there are lots and lots of things that you can do with this basic design. So let me just press that on, try and make sure it fits. And there we go. You just see it just gives a little bit of sparkle, but not too much. Okay, so now all we need to do is pop the sentiment and the flowers. So first up, you're going to want to arrange it and check you've got it, the design how you want it. Let's have a little tuck that one under there. Okay, yeah, I'm happy with that. So let's take these off. That's going to go on the top. So I know I need to stick these two onto here. Now, this is quite a good glue if you're just putting something that's not a lot of weight onto acetate. Okay, this is the glue pen and the glue tape runner rather. And if you're not sure which way up it goes, just look to see where the label is. I'm a lefty, so if you were right-handed, that would be the way. I'm just going to do it this way. So let me just pop some glue on here. Just pop that one on there. Get this one here. Pop that there, and then we're going to put that on there, and we'll use some foam pads for the last bit just to give a little bit of height and dimension. So pop that there like that. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is add some foam pads. There we go. Put one on there, and we'll add a little bit more height. So I try and be as quick as I can. Just make sure we don't get rid of the wording. And then add another couple onto here. And there we go. We are done. Okay, now you can see here, you probably want to trim off the bottom. That just means that I haven't quite measured it all the way halfway. You can add lots more elements into it. I've somehow, when I was die cutting, caught a little bit there, put another little flower on like that, and that will hide it too. But this just gives a really elegant card. Nicely simple technique, using partial die cutting and using the gorgeous elements from Craft Kit 22. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. I can't wait to see what you guys all make once you receive your kit. Don't forget to check out inspiration on YouTube, on our Facebook page, and also on the Craft Kit page online too. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.